back, Billiken fans. It's Zach Miller and Peter Hale. This is the Midtown Madness podcast. Pete, I think I compared our non-basketball guests to like working as an actor and doing like an art film, where you just kind of do the things or bring on the guests that you find interesting and hope everybody else does. And I think we've done it again this time.
I think so. I really like the way you always frame it of giving people the stuff they didn't know they wanted, and I think this is a perfect example.
Yeah. This time, though, we are bringing in two top performers on the Billiken track team, freshman sensation Toby Gillen and sophomore standout hurdler and sprinter Emily Nichols are joining the show to talk about their successful A10 Championship meet and give us a little idea of track and field, a little bit more. We got John Bell, and now we're gonna get the athlete side of things. So we're excited about that, and we're gonna kick it over right now. We are very excited to welcome these two guests to the podcast. First, we have a middle distance runner who has come all the way from Cairns, Australia, to take the A10 distance running scene by storm. He was named A10 Rookie of the Year and took home the gold in the 10,000 meters at the 2022 A10 Outdoor Track and Field Championships this past weekend. We also have a sprinter hurdler who not only set the Billiken record in the 200 meter at 24:48, but took home the silver in the 400 meters. Welcome to the show, Toby Gillen and Emily Nichols. Guys, this is awesome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
So you guys just got back from Richmond. How was the travel? I got to imagine traveling with that big of a party is kind of a nightmare.
Honestly, it's a lot of fun. Like all of us just hanging out in the airport. Like when we walk in, people move out of the way because they're like, I don't know who the squad in blue is, but there's a lot of you.
Yeah, it was quite complicated, like coming back to St. Louis like this afternoon, because our flight got in at I think 11:30. We arrived because we went Richmond or Washington to New York, and then New York to St. Louis, and we arrived in New York at about 11:30 with a flight back to St. Louis at 11:30. So we had to like rush off the plane. They held the plane for like I don't know, a good like half an hour or so. Like with all of us on this other plane, they shuffled us off, and we got to the gate just in time. And
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
Coach Bell is definitely very stressed all the time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he kind of talked to us about travel a little bit and how that's such a challenging part of his job. Although I mean, I guess it's a little easier going from Richmond to St. Louis than from Australia to St. Louis. That's got to be a couple more flights, right?
Yeah, I'm doing that in like the next week and a half. Again, it's 4 or 5 different flights.
How much was your flight? Like $3,000, you said?
Yeah, it was like it's ridiculous.
Wow.
And I guess the frequent flyer miles don't you can't use them because you're using like Qantas,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Qantas, and then to American Airlines, and then to Delta or whatever, and it's ridiculous.
So Coach Bell talked a little bit about your recruitment and how just how quick it was from the first introduction that was kind of unexpected to the time that you showed up on campus, actually not that long ago. What was that like from your perspective? Were you being recruited by anyone else, or did you just suddenly chase this new opportunity that popped up?
Well, so in 2020, I got a bit of attention from a few other universities. For instance, like Drake University, Gonzaga. There's like CBU over in California. And I was talking to them nonstop throughout like 2019, 2020 after I like graduated school and everything. And anyway, of course, COVID came in, and pretty much, I mean, you guys probably know, with all the recruiting and stuff, it got so hard trying to come over to the US, and then all the scholarship money kind of got cut off as well.
Right.
So I wasn't able to come in 2020, and then I kind of just gave up on the dream of like college, American college. And then I went to university last year in Australia with like I mean, no hope in becoming like a collegiate runner, but then my mate, who Bell talked about in the last podcast of yours, I'm pretty sure, Harrison Martinenko, who's one of my best mates, he said to Bell, end of last year, I think it was only October or September or something like that, very late in the year, he was like, I've got a mate of mine in Australia who's run some fast times and stuff. Can you give him like a look or whatever? So he did, and
here he is.
And here I am.
Was it always about track with you, or did you get into any of the classic Australian sports, rugby, Aussie rules, anything like that?
I mean, look at me. I'm pretty skinny.
We weigh the same. We weigh the same.
Probably.
I've seen some of those the taller guys in Aussie rules, man. They play.
Oh no, yeah. I used to play Aussie rules a lot, but then of course everyone else grew. I was still stuck with running, and I just followed it on.
We have the classic SLU soundtrack behind you.
Yeah,
It's really
I hear that.
Our listeners are going to be they're going to get a little nostalgia kick.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Emily, first, congratulations on your accomplishments this season.
Thank you.
But how did the team and coaching staff, we talked a little bit about the COVID situation, but how did you personally, the team, and then the coaching staff handle the canceled season? Were you able to access a track for most of the time? I mean, I know initially it probably was really hard, but how did you kind of keep yourself motivated?
It was hard. I was hurt last year as well, so training was kind of like put on hold for me. And when I did train, it was like on a bike in a boot, and we all had masks on even at the track. And when I returned back to practice like later in the spring, we did have to wear masks outside, which was definitely very difficult. I don't have a problem with wearing masks like ever, but when I'm trying to breathe like pretty heavy and running really fast, like it does get in the way. It was pretty difficult.
You mentioned training, and by the way, I completely agree. It is very difficult running in a mask, no matter what anybody will tell you, or cycling or whatever you're doing. But I'm curious about the training, because you did mention you're injured and coming back from an injury. I have just enough knowledge to be dangerous about training for distance running, but as far as running for sprinting, how much of the training is weights and power versus, the form of it all?
Definitely weight training is something that like is very focused on for us, because a lot of the like power and strength that we need is found like in the weight room. Thankfully, we have honestly like great strength coaches, like especially this year we like upped it up, and that was like a huge part in my success. Was I just gained so much power that I like didn't have before, because we were like able to hit the weight room like consistently. Unlike in COVID, like we couldn't go in the weight room sometimes because it was like canceled. It was inside. We would have to lift in these random like parking garages, and like we weren't getting like efficient lifts like whatsoever. And so this year, like now without like lifting without masks on, especially like having consistent lifts like 3 times a week out of season, 2 times a week in season, like it's been so helpful.
What about for you, Toby? I mean, is there really any like weight training behind what more distance runners do, or is it all about kind of the nutrition and more of the conditioning side?
Yeah, I mean, so we do lift twice a week as well. For my kind of events like the 5K, the 3K, the 10K, it's not as much. It's like, for instance, the other boys on the team on the 1500 and the 800, they do a lot more weight training because it's more power based and shorter distance and whatever. So for me, it's kind of, I do all the same stuff that those boys do, but it's just lighter weights, kind of easier on the body, I guess, because you got to be running at least 100K to 120 kilometers, which is 60, 70 miles or so a week. So So yeah, it's kind of, you know, like what pull-ups and lots of body weight stuff, lots of core as well. So yeah, we're in the gym twice a week, but it's not as much as Emily here.
Coach Bell said he hadn't had much of a chance to, you know, kind of coach you since you arrived, since it was kind of a whirlwind situation. Is this still the case, or have you had some time to get with him and kind of get on the program, so to speak?
Yeah, I've sat down with him a couple of times and talked about training and types of sessions I previously did when I was in Australia with my coach. Just kind of like fine tuning my training plan and stuff. So yeah, I'm on all his sessions at the moment. I mean, now it's the end of the season, not so much, but going into summer, we'll all have a training plan that we've got to follow throughout the summer until we get back for crossy season. So yeah, but yeah, I have worked with Bell for our training plan.
So what does summer training look like? Is it a little bit lighter for you guys, or is it are they trying to keep you at kind of an even level all year long?
So like throughout track season, indoor and outdoor, it's, you know, 60, 70, 80 miles a week, kind of around that distance. And then it's 3 sessions a week. And that's speed and, you know, reps as well. But going into summer, it's going to be 100 miles a week. Not as many sessions, but it's just trying to build up the base of or the accumulation of the kilometers and the mileage for 3 months or so until we get back.
One of our favorite topics we like to discuss with our guests is travel. And we talked a little bit about travel and how, you know, it can be a bit of a nightmare, but you said it's kind of fun. Do you have any stories of just absolute debacles on the road of like logistics? And can you share them? And what do you got? Either one of you. Whoever wants to go.
Emily can tell this one.
Oh,
because she was there.
Which one are we talking about?
Stanford.
Oh my goodness. So we went to Stanford, I think a couple months ago. This was in the beginning of our outdoor season, and it was such a fun trip. We got there okay. Everything was great. We had such a good trip. Everyone ran like pretty good for the beginning of our outdoor season. On the way back, we were in the San Francisco airport, and we got there at 4 in the morning, I would say. And then we get there and somebody, like one of our teammates, checks like our flight status and it said canceled. And there was 13 of us who went to Stanford. So when we saw it was canceled, we were like, uh-oh. So Coach Bell parks the van that we were in, comes inside, and he's like, it's canceled. What is going on? And he goes and he does his coach thing. Everyone else goes to sit down because we're like exhausted. Half of us fall asleep like on the floor. Like we're all just like, we just honestly, there's so much of us. We just like camp out somewhere and we're all just like on the airport floor, like asleep. Like we're like nudging each other, like wake up, like it's time to go somewhere else. And so he's like just calling people by name, like Jackson, Harrison, Toby, like just calling like people. And we're like, what is he doing? And he's giving them like tickets, just like he's trying to get them like to any airport ever, because the next flight out wasn't for like 2 or 3 days after the fact. So he was just giving us like random tickets. And then we were like, Bell, like, how do we know that this is going to be like going to St. Louis? He was like, it's a layover. Like you have to fly standby at the next place where that you get to.
Oh man.
We were just like, okay. So he like gives all the responsible people the tickets first. Yeah.
Like, which one of you, do both of you fall on the responsible side?
Maybe not us.
Because there was people so that happened on Sunday morning. There's people that came back on Sunday afternoon, and then a lot of the other people came back on Monday.
Yeah, he got back before we did because he was on a different, like he competed on the first day and not the second day. So he left on the second day, but I competed in the 400 on the first day and the 200 on the second day. So I had to stay the entire second day, and we left like that next morning. And that's when it all like went to shambles. So he was already back, but you also had flight
ours
problems
was
that day.
also delayed by hours as well. And we got back on like Sunday morning at 4 a.m., about 5 a.m. in the morning as well. So like that whole weekend was shambles for the flights. Like I'm pretty sure it was all over the news as well. There was like thousands of flights that got canceled that one weekend.
Yeah. I have so many pictures of Coach Bell like sitting there like like so many pictures of him being like, so distraught the whole time.
I guess it's a good thing you only took 13 on that
exactly.
trip.
When this morning when we were delayed and we almost missed our connecting flight to St. Louis, I was having flashbacks. I was like, we're gonna not make this next flight, and then we're not gonna get out of here, except this time it'll be all 55 of us that came on this trip. And I was like, I have a headache for Coach Bell right now. And I was like, that's not my problem.
So how does that work in terms of like how many you travel for a given event? Are you invited to bring so many spots to certain events, or is it how does that work?
Most like invitational meets, like big ones, like we went to Drake, we went to Kentucky,
Stanford, obviously.
And with conference, it's a little different. We have like, it's basically whoever Coach Bell thinks would compete well at our conference, and he'll bring those people.
And it's also top 4 as well, like from our team. It's top 4 if we have 4 in the event.
Sprinters, we don't have 4.
Yeah. So like the distance team, some people get cut.
Gotcha.
Just because there's more than 4 in each event for like the 10K or the 5K or the 1500 or the 8 as well. So yeah, so it's 4.
So I have a buddy who ran at SLU. Shout out Scott Vicker. But he always talked about the Drake relays. Tell us about this event, because it is like legendary.
Honestly,
he's never really gone into more detail, so I need some details.
I think, is he from Iowa by chance?
Yes.
Okay, that's so funny because all of our teammates from Iowa, like they competed there in high school, so it's like nostalgic for them. Like they like came back in college and they were like super excited. I went there; it was very hyped up by the Iowa people, like.
She's throwing shade at the Drake relays.
I would say that we both went to Stanford and like Kentucky and Drake. And this year at Drake, the weather was very, very bad.
The weather,
it was so bad. Like nobody ran well because like the wind was terrible. It was raining. But when we were in California, like we all ran like fantastic. Like the weather was great. And it was a very, very big meet as well, and the energy was just there. And at Drake relays, I felt like the energy was there, but it was definitely like not as, it was, I feel like hyped up too much almost.
It was also
like super bad.
Yeah,
like windy,
like the movie Super Bad.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like because we had been to like a meet like that before, we expected something bigger than that. But like it was definitely very, very cool seeing like Olympians, like gold medalists. Like it was amazing watching those people. I definitely felt like humbled because I was like, man, like it was a funny feeling. I was like, I just feel like I just don't belong here but I mean, obviously we got into the meet, so we did belong there. And I think that's like Coach Bell's purpose, is he wants to bring us to those meets and like show us like all these amazing people and that like.
But plus put SLU out there as well. Get a bit more attention.
Yeah.
Kind of put a name for ourselves as well, which is good because when we were at Stanford, there was a few people or whatever that came up and said that they were like interested in SLU after seeing all of us run. So yeah, the word's getting out there, you know, spreading, showing what SLU's got.
a smaller like D1 running program, like, and like definitely newer than a lot of the running programs out there. So
I think the word's up and coming.
Up and coming, that's right.
Yeah. So you mentioned seeing Olympians there. Any standouts? Anybody that like was super exciting to see?
Definitely a 400 hurdler. I'm pretty sure she did have the world record in the 400 hurdles at one point until Sydney McLaughlin took it over. But watching her race was amazing. She did not let that weather slow her down. She ran like an all-time best there. It was amazing. There was also another like male 400 hurdler that was also incredible. I can't remember if Christian Coleman was there or not. I don't think so. That was at Kentucky. We did see Christian Coleman get a third in the world time at Kentucky as well. So I don't know about any distance people. I honestly don't really know a lot of distance runners, if I'm being.
Yeah, no, there was a few boys there that competed at Tokyo Olympics as well. Some of the boys that like we know, like there's a guy from New Zealand who's a New Zealand Olympian that I used to race back in Australia and stuff. So like it's pretty cool seeing some people, transition from that school kind of area and kind of group, and then you're seeing them at Drake Relays racing the Open 1500 or going to Tokyo Olympics and stuff. So it's pretty cool just seeing those types of people there.
There was people in the warm-up area, like the professional and the college athletes warmed up in the same area, different than the high school. And I'm pretty sure there was also middle school athletes as well at Drake Relays. And there were the professional USA coach. Like I heard him like yelling at some like college girls because they were like in the way. And it was a very, very small concourse. There's no way that you can just like not be in the way of someone at some point. Like, especially when people are trying to sprint or like do hurdles down this like little narrow area, when people are like running back and forth, they're trying to do blocks, they're trying to just get their like warm up in. And this USA coach started yelling at some girl from Iowa State. And like, I just saw the Iowa State coach like be like, you guys are not special. Like it was crazy, but yeah, it made me feel like they were like one of us at some point as well. So like,
right.
They're not like above any of us.
You talked about the weather. How much do you take into it? Like, where does the strategy change? And either one of you can take it. How does the strategy change? Footwear, is there any change based on whether it's rainy, cold, any of that? Does your warm-up change? I mean, what all goes into those decisions?
You warm up. It's honestly like up to the athletes. I mean, obviously like Coach Bell is like, wear your warm-ups, and I wear like leggings, my sweatpants, a long sleeve, a hoodie, and my jacket. Like that's what I did yesterday at conference because it was 45 degrees and raining. And also you warm up for like longer. So you're like actually really sweating by the time you like have to get on the line. So.
Well, yeah. And plus like, for instance, at the SLU track, I don't know if you guys remember being there, like it's seriously windy. Like
it's open. There's nothing blocking.
It's wide open.
There's nothing.
There's no coverage at all. So like when we're training over there, it's a nightmare. Like if you saw me like the other day, like, I'm swearing at the wind at the top of my like voice just because I'm so like just pissed off with the wind and the conditions and stuff. But yeah, I mean, you take into consideration the weather a lot. Like at conference with the wind in the 5K, this is what the teammates and I figured out that they were doing the 5K, which was they were running 200 meters into the wind at like 35 seconds. And then the second 200 of the 4 or the lap was then like a 32 or whatever. So they were like playing it into the wind, going slower in the wind and then speeding up around the last 200. to go faster, to use the tailwind. So there's a lot of like strategy that kind of goes into it as well. And of course, in the 10K, for instance, when it's a long pack that forms with people, you just try and jump in behind everyone so you can
use them as shield.
Right.
Yeah, so they take the wind. So yeah, it's a lot of strategy.
With sprinting, there's no strategy. You're all in your own lane, and you just gotta go as fast as you can into the wind, and then when you come back around, it's at your back, and just take it as you can.
So of all the elements, is wind the biggest enemy?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
More than cold or rain or anything else?
I would say wind.
Cold, you can warm up, and rain, it's rain.
Rain. I honestly like running in the rain sometimes. It makes me feel like I'm in a movie. Like kind of epic sometimes. Like
I feel that.
Yeah, it's cinematic.
But the wind, you just, especially for running, like you can't, like there's only so much you can do when you're running straight into the wind. You're gonna slow down, and it's just gonna make your time slower.
Plus, it fatigues you as well.
Yeah.
It just. Yeah.
So what are your plans from here on out? Toby, you're just finishing up your freshman year, and congrats on the A10 Rookie of the Year award.
Thank you.
And then Emily, you're a junior academically, but I guess do you have kind of a COVID bonus year? So both of you, what are your plans from here on out?
I am finishing school. I'm a medical lab science major, so I'm gonna graduate after next year. And I'm looking at grad school here at SLU as well to maybe use my COVID year for some eligibility. So
nice. What about you, Toby?
So, I mean, it's not even been a year yet. It's been like, what, four months or whatever, 3 months that I've been here. So, yeah, I'll be going back to Australia for the summer, training the whole time, come back in August. Start crossy season back up, and pretty much get racing again, because I'm wanting to go to the NCAAs and get to regionals and kind of tick off those goals. So this summer is going to be probably a big training block for me, pretty much. So that's kind of my goals. And
I'm not running for a little bit. I don't have to do cross country, so
yeah.
Have fun with that one.
Enjoy your summer.
Have fun with that one. You cannot catch me running longer than 400 meters. Sorry.
Speaking of the summer, enjoy the weather out there. Obviously, thank you guys so much for coming on and joining.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, providing perspective on track and field for people that may not be able to follow it as closely as, say, basketball or baseball. So thank you guys again, and hopefully we'll be talking to you next year when you both make the NCAA tournament.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Congrats on a good season. Good luck.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Pete, they were great. I think they just were like, people care about track and field, and we're like,
yeah. Like they said, it's a program on the rise, getting the word out there, and we want to help them do that any way we can. We love Coach Bell, and the direction he's got the program going in. Like they said, it's kind of a smaller D1 program, but they're young and they're coming back, and that's promising. I mean, he was just A10 Rookie of the Year, and we just saw Rhode Island win a 4th straight title on the men's side, and there's a few women's programs that are kind of the top tier, but SLU kind of has an opportunity to really move up, and if they can stack a couple more classes of athletes like this behind these two, we're going to be in pretty good shape moving forward.
Yeah, I love their their ambition, man. Like Toby's like, I want to make the NCAA tournament, or the NCAA meet. Like I want to go after. Like he's got these goals laid out, and that's exciting. I'm really impressed by his ambition and his kind of Just do whatever it takes. How hard is that to just he almost gave up on being a college athlete here in America and found his path, and now he's making the most of it.
Yeah, from a guy who just finished with 2 medals, this weekend at the A10 Championships, and he's like, yeah, it's not enough, but also their confidence in one another, right? I mean, he talks about like just her ability and how good she is. She was like, oh, he could, if the weather was better, he could have shaved, time off his run. There's a lot of confidence in each other as teammates and in their own abilities. So yeah, I think we're going to be seeing both of them at NCAA meets in the future.
Yeah, I think in our post-recording little brief, she talked about how he could have ran his 30-minute 10K at 28.
Yeah.
So that's impressive, depending on the weather. And the weather, I thought, was an interesting topic, because if it's not 70 degrees, I'm running on a treadmill. But anyway, let's talk basketball, Pete, because besides those interesting stories that we try to lay out for people, they listen to us for our basketball. Like, I don't know why they do, but they do. The A10 has announced, but like, we've known this forever. The A10 is interested in adding a 16th team.
Yeah, I think the wording was like open to it. It's one of those things that you don't necessarily go public with unless you really want to like put the seed in other people's minds and other program schools' minds. But I thought it was kind of interesting timing given all of the conference shuffling that's just happened. And also the fact, I mean, 15 is a big conference. That's one of the biggest. And 16, I think, would tie them as one of the biggest conferences. I know the SEC is going to 16, and I'd actually have to look. I don't know if there are any others that are that big at the moment, but that's a really big conference. And I don't know, what are your feelings on this? What would you think about 16?
I think I'm not, like, there's a couple hangups for me, and it's, what does 16 do to, what does having 16 teams do to strength of schedule, RPI and net, all this stuff? How does it affect the numbers? And does it give the conference a better shot at, 3-4 bids? That's an important aspect, I think, first and foremost. Second on my list, and rightfully so, for most Billiken fans, is geography. Where are they coming from? Now, of course, the East Coast teams are going to want a team like Iona, a team like Charleston, a team on the East Coast, northeast based. Charleston, because it's a damn fine vacation destination on the East Coast.
Yeah. But our retired alums like that idea.
Exactly. That's the real reason Bonaventure took over Charleston. Don't anybody tell you any different.
Oh, completely.
No. But I think Billiken fans would be very happy about a Belmont. Yeah. I mean, Murray State was thrown out there. That's a little off the, path of, ideologically the colleges in the conference already. But I would like, obviously I'm so happy Loyola's in the conference. I love that there's a Chicago trip now. So anything that gives us a way to drive to a road game is okay by me. I will sacrifice program strength for proximity.
So that's interesting. So because I'm kind of like,
I won't sell out for proximity.
Sure.
But I would weight it, on a weighted scale. Yeah.
So I think the single question that I have is, does the 16th program has to make the conference stronger? You don't just add it for the numbers. And I'm skeptical that Iona is going to be a sustainable program once Pitino's gone. And I have my doubts that their non-basketball programs are really that competitive. I mean, that's a It's a fairly
Like,
small
yeah.
school. It's a very small facility, their basketball
It's
facility.
still a college. It would be the second college in the
Yeah,
conference with
with
Davidson.
Davidson.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Davidson has made the conference stronger. I think that's been
Right.
a great addition
Baseball,
across the board.
basketball. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, so I'm skeptical of a school like that. And you've heard Belmont mentioned plenty. People like Belmont, people like Nashville, they just went to the Valley. I don't know what the agreement is there, whether breaking a conference deal as soon as you go there is going to cost you, how many more $1 million to do. Murray State, I don't see that as a geographical or cultural fit at all. Even with SLU, I mean, that's like Murray State is like it's down there. It's like it's the far southwestern tip of Kentucky. Like it's like south of Paducah. It's really out there. Nobody from the A10, except maybe SLU fans, maybe Dayton fans, are going to make it down there. But even from Dayton, that's kind of a haul. Um, it's really out there. The other programs that I've heard talked about as a potential like basketball strengthening sort of side of things, Wichita State gets thrown out there a little bit, but now you're talking about, people think St. Louis is a Western outpost in the conference. That really moves it out there. Wichita is, I mean, what is that?
Gonzaga, throw them in.
Now that I would make an exception for, yeah. But Wichita is really out there for the A10. They're not really going to drive anywhere. Maybe St. Louis occasionally. But yeah, that's pretty far out there. And I know they're in the American now, and that's a pretty geographically spread out conference. So I don't know how they would view such a thing. The other one I've heard is Temple. But Temple is one since they've
That's the
joined.
ex-girlfriend you never call.
Well, I mean, yeah, kind of. And I, I think that ex-girlfriend thought she was going to be better off chasing football, and football hasn't necessarily treated her, like she deserves to be treated. I'm going way too far with this, but what I mean is,
You haven't gone far enough, as far as I'm concerned.
but what I mean there is, they have been a really strong basketball program for a long time, but not anymore. Not since they've really chased this whole football thing. I think that's kind of where their attention and resources have gone, at the expense of their other sports that they've been historically more competitive in. It also gives us a third Philly school again, which, I don't know, doesn't really do anything. Market wise, maybe, I don't know. I mean, I liked Temple in the conference when they were here, but I'm not super excited about adding them back. I think it's kind of we just add back kind of a middle of the pack program there. So I don't really know that there's an easy answer out there that like, oh, here's the team that's going to be that 16th that makes this a stronger conference.
Would you rather see improvement by elimination than, say, addition?
So I'm less sold on this idea than a lot of people are, just for the simple fact that it just doesn't happen. Like I've said this before on the show, but like I don't see examples historically of conferences just giving a team the boot, no matter what. I mean, there have been conferences with programs who are just in the cellar in almost every sport for years, and they don't get the boot. Some of them get sanctions or and other NCAA violations, and they don't get the boot. It just doesn't happen. I don't know what makes people think that the A10 is going to go, Fordham, you're not quite doing enough. Duquesne, we like the new arena, but come on, you got to do better. What are they going to, I just don't see that happening.
It's like taking an obscure foreign language in college. They're so happy you're there that they're not going to fail you. I did that. It's a thing to do if you're going into college. Take an obscure language. You don't have to do good at it.
Listen to us for tips for success, kids.
Yes. Well, we do a podcast that operates at a loss. Oh, this is what happens when we record on a Monday instead of a Sunday. Things go off
Yeah,
the rails.
it's all off.
Let's jump into Billiken basketball specifically. There's news on the portal front, but it's not like news we got to worry about. Markai Strickland found a landing spot. Kind of surprising.
Yeah, to me it is because when you're at that sort of like 9 to 13, 10 to 13 spot in the roster at SLU, he's not going to end up in the SEC, even though I think he's got a sky high ceiling.
Which
And
is why it was upsetting that he kind of transferred out.
Right, exactly. I still wanted him to develop at SLU. But he wound up at Victoria College. It's a JUCO in Texas. And that part surprised me. This is the second guy now in a row, or second year in a row, where we've had somebody who's done 2 years at SLU and then transfer to a community college. You sort of wonder, like, academically, that's typically not something you see after 2 years. So I don't know if he didn't have enough credits to be a junior or whatever either. So that's the part that surprised me. I thought he'd find a D1 landing spot somewhere. I know he visited Florida Gulf Coast and a couple other places. So a little surprising to see him go the JUCO route, but I think that the JUCO style probably serves him pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I, I, he like you said, sky high ceiling, but it's one of those things where you hold your breath every time he puts the ball on the floor in a way. But then when he does do something incredible, you're like, holy hell. Like
Yeah.
that, like that's what we could use. But I mean, it's just not consistent yet, and I wonder if his development wasn't heading that way. Obviously, he thought he was better served heading to Victoria Community College.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's just it was the roster just never really opened up for him. Too crowded with more experience.
Let's talk about the recruiting front. We don't get into it as much as I think. I think I neglect it on the show, and that's my fault for not actually like pushing for it. But Mael Crespin, I think I got that right. He's got his schools down between the Billikens and Washington State.
Washington State was kind of a surprise because everything that we had seen, and honestly, which wasn't much.
We all thought it was going to be. We all thought it was a typo or a miss.
Yeah, we did. We was like, okay, Stu got the wrong Pacific Northwest school, because we thought he was going to Oregon State and St. Mary's. Those were going to be the other two that he visited, which Stu had said a week or two earlier. Stu Durando, beat writer for the Post-Dispatch, but he wound up going to Washington State too. Now, he did visit Oregon State. I know that. The only thing I could find written about him anywhere from an Oregon State source was their beat writer in the paper about a week ago said that the staff really liked him and liked his potential. He did post an Instagram story from like Portland, like after he landed in Portland, something like that. And he wouldn't have gone all the way to Portland if he were going to Washington State, because Washington State's back in the eastern part of the state. He would have gone to like, Spokane or one of the Idaho airports or something, somewhere around there. But anyway, so I don't know if he had time to make it down to St. Mary's or not before backtracking up to Washington State, but regardless, it's between us and the Cougars. And just as a kind of a reminder, he's like a 6'9", 235, young, stretch really big, young, 17 years old. So he is on the young. He was born in 2004, so he won't be 18 until later this year. He's playing this summer for France in the under-18 Eurobasket, which will be in Turkey in the beginning of August. So wherever he goes, he's not going to be on campus early. He won't be until mid-August. And then, he also kind of, we touched on this last time we talked about him. College is not like, his end destination, like he's not looking at like a college and then NBA track. He said college is kind of his plan B if he doesn't make the second tier of professional basketball in France. He's a little young, and I think it's what's called Pro B or something like that. Their second tier of the, because it's like a promotion and relegation pyramid. He's currently in the third tier and eligible for the NCAA. But going to the second tier would make him a pro basketball player, and he wouldn't be coming to college. He said that was his plan if they wanted him, but it looks like they're going to hold off for now, and that he'll go to college. So I don't know how long his plan is to stay in the States, whether that's 1 year, 2, 3, I don't know. But it's pro of some level is what he wants to get into as soon as he can. But like we said, he's on the younger side, needs some development, but he's got a surprisingly polished game for his age. I think there's a lot of potential. It's just a question of, what his role will be and how we kind of fill out this front court, which is still wide open.
Pete, we learned about a couple of names that through social media and whatnot, kind of linking players to coaching staff here at SLU. Any names that maybe we should be aware of that we're not necessarily tracking? And by that, I mean me, who doesn't put any effort into looking at recruiting.
The coaches will follow players frequently, who have hit the portal or maybe who are kind of still lingering in the class of 22 and haven't found a spot yet. There's still I think that, like, I feel, again, we've talked about this, but the class of incoming high school and prep school players right now, way overlooked, underrated, under recruited because of the glut of players still in college due to the COVID bonus year. They wouldn't be as affected by the transfers if so many of these guys weren't exercising their extra years of eligibility. So there are so many players still in college who wouldn't be, and who would be making room for these up and coming guys. So I still think there are some really good players to be found in the prep ranks. Specific names, I don't know. I tend not to get into them on the show until we offer, just because it's really, speculation about how, it might just be a matter of an assistant coach reaching out to a guy. Maybe there's not mutual interest. So I don't have anything super strong at this point.
It's like my dating life.
So at this point, no specific names that I'll give, but if we do have like a tangible piece of information, we'll put it out there on Twitter or in the next show. I tend to hold off unless we've got like visitors or offers or stuff like that. But I have heard rumors that we will have another big man visiting pretty soon. So once I'm comfortable with that lead, we'll tease that out for you guys.
You talked a lot about the portal and the extra bonus year and the recruits, how it's kind of messed up recruiting. How far down the line is this? Like, do we see this? Like, this could go on for a decade where, like, players are, transferring because they couldn't get to that school they wanted to go to because there wasn't a scholarship available, right? Like, this could have a domino effect well beyond the next couple of years.
I think when you look at the timeline, we're pretty much at the peak. I think class of 22 might be the most, like, and we'll have to see how the numbers play out in the end, but you're really looking at a 4 to 5 years stretch that's going to be artificially inflated in terms of the number of players who are not leaving college right away. We had the first year, and now I think this will be entering year 3 impacted by this. So we might have kind of 2 years after this that still have some extra dudes. And really, it's not the transfers as much as the COVID bonus year, because the transfers could come and go all they want, but they've still got 4 years of eligibility, right? It's those extra years that everybody was given that are the ones keeping more guys in college, and therefore guys from the 21 and 22 classes who kind of got who got a little screwed. Now the ones at the top, they're going to find their spots, no problem, but there are a lot of guys who would be playing at a higher level of Division One, or in Division One if they're not making Division One, or it's a ripple effect that goes on down the line, because you're talking about several hundred players a year staying in D1, like frequently multiple guys on any given roster. And now we're up to about 360 programs. So you do the math and you can get to 1,000 pretty quick. So at any given time, you might have up to 1,000 extra players or so in college basketball. crowding out other guys who can come in. That's huge. That's a huge number. So I think we've still got 2 or 3 more years of this before we really see that impact fall off.
Let's talk about this new scheduling idea. It's basically Bracket Busters Part 2. Give our listeners an idea, because again, I have said multiple times, I love doing this podcast. I love it. But I long for the days where I just show up to the first exhibition game and I know what's going on at that point. So for those people that kind of live like I wish I could, give them an idea of what this conference, this scheduling idea is all about.
So I think this was first reported by CBS Sports, and the way that they've reported it is that 22 conferences, we know there are at least 22 involved in the conversations. They're discussing a flex scheduling proposal that would give teams back-to-back non-conference game in February, a few weeks before Selection Sunday. So for 1 week, conference schedules would pause for these games, and the games would be decided by an algorithm that gives potential tournament teams, stronger matchups to boost their profiles. So if we're looking like a tournament team in early February, we're going to get a game against another kind of, maybe a bubble team, maybe a solid, depending on where we are. So think about like those Boise State and UAB games and teams like that who are kind of at our level this season. It would be those that are just given to us all of a sudden in February. So it's kind of similar to the Bracket Busters concept. If people remember, like you mentioned, Bracket Busters, which was about a decade ago. I don't know.
Whenever somebody's like, "Oh, it's like a decade ago," I'm like, "No."
Yeah,
and then I look at it and I go, "Okay,
it's been a little while.
That was about a decade and a half." Yeah, no.
But this would be structured by the participating conferences who are using, the formula, which needs to be derived, obviously, but it, as opposed to like ESPN setting it up, you know what I mean? So the way that this would work,
I'm sure this will go well as the net and the RPI, and I'm sure it'll go swimmingly with no issues.
In a way, it's a way to combat those, right? Because like you've seen the power conferences continue to benefit from the net. It really hasn't shifted things to even it out at all, and you still wind up with 9 Big Ten teams in the tournament, 7 of whom lose in the first round because it's such a strong conference. You're still winding up with that happening back-to-back seasons now. So this way, these A10, Mountain West, and everybody down, American, Valley, everybody behind those conferences are saying, what can we do to guarantee ourselves more good games? So you're going to swap out 2 non-conference games from November, December. The conference is going to start before New Year's, and and then you wind up with more competitive games. So if SLU has to give up maybe 1 bye game and 1 other game, maybe 1 road game, it probably would benefit us by at least a few spots in the net to do this. It's also kind of making things more interesting, because now all of a sudden you've got 2 games not on the schedule that pop onto your schedule in February. That's exciting for fans. I mean, this can make it an event, the whole like kind of matchup show or something like that. So it's kind of exciting. And then teams who are, everybody who participates is going to have to give up games, right? So the teams that are not looking like tournament teams, lower level teams, they're going to wind up with games that are going to give them easy travel. So like more regional games, they're going to be non-conference, but it's going to be somebody in their neck of the woods to kind of make things interesting for the fans and easy travel for the programs.
I'm sure Matt Cady, ticket director at St. Louis University, is shaking thinking about the Iona situation from this past season.
Yeah.
By the way, you mentioned exciting. How exciting was that Iona game? Like, I mean, I know that I've spoken to people who so badly wish that game was a weekend game.
Yeah.
You could have filled Chaffetz. That place could have been going ape shit for that game. Because it was such a fun game, because it was such an interesting opponent, all of that, like there were storylines. I almost wish you would like not so much even bracket busters, like do it with an algorithm, but like do it where like storylines would be dope too. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
sure, we're getting into like Vince McMahon, type stuff, but like that'd be cool. Like, I loved the Patino Forge storyline.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, give a coach, the school he just left or something like that. Yeah, I think
Shaka Smart versus Texas,
yeah, there you go.
Marquette, Texas.
Although I doubt those conferences are participating, but yes, that
Right.
idea. Um, yeah, I think there are a lot of discussions still to be had and probably some stuff to be done there.
I think my idea was bracket busters, honestly.
Well, I don't remember all the details of that. I'd have to go look that up. But I think the downside of this is it does remove 2 games on the schedule that fans can plan out ahead of time. And like season ticket holders know exactly all season long when a game's going to be, or fans who are like, I've got this penciled in on my calendar. I'm going to go to Dayton that weekend for a game. Like it's it does make it a little harder to plan out, but it is,
hotels.
kind of exactly. It's kind of exciting at the same time. Presumably most of these places aren't going to be in the winter, impossible to travel to, and would have enough hotel rooms for whoever can travel on short notice.
We'll get the Rainbow Warriors
on short notice. Yeah, you're gonna have to fly 16 hours or whatever. But yeah, it's a fun idea, and if it doesn't happen in this exact proposed format, I think something's going to happen along these lines to, as the non-power conferences try to strengthen themselves.
Speaking of poorly conceived ideas, the NIL, the NCAA is retroactively attempting to police this, and I think all of us held our collective breaths in the SLU Twitter think tank, or sluts, that SLU was gonna get the shit end of the stick and end up being like, I don't know, for protecting themselves allegedly, depending on what happened. We still haven't been confirmed, but the Yuri Collins situation would come back to bite SLU and not Tennessee.
The thought being that if SLU put an NIL deal together to retain him, we would be the ones slapped on the wrist for that, rather than the school that probably tampered in the first place, which would just be like the ultimate SLU thing, and it would be the ultimate like non-power conference thing, is like trying to stay competitive with them is what gets you busted. It sounds like even if they are able to implement what they're threatening to implement, it sounds like this would not apply in that situation because he is staying on the roster. He's staying at the school. So in this situation, it doesn't sound like it would be an issue. I do have questions over how feasible like this sort of ex post facto law would be. I think probably anything that comes in before it that they try and punish is going to be challenged legally and probably not upheld. I also have serious questions about the teeth that any such rules would have, and whether they actually are able to punish malfeasance of any kind. So I have a lot of skepticism about the NCAA suddenly becoming this strong enforcement agency in this kind of stuff. I mean, they had a long time to put some guidelines in place and at least say, here's the letter of the law, here's how NIL is supposed to work, here's what you got to do. They did nothing, hoping that states and or the federal government would put something together. And now it's the Wild West, and they've made their own bed. So we'll see what they do, but I have my doubts.
Mark Emmert has made it clear he does not want to be Wyatt Earp. He is getting out of Dodge.
What a job, by the way, to leave a job with 8 figures, having done almost nothing. I mean, like just incredible.
I need to figure out that level of failing upward.
It's spectacular.
By the way,
you gotta hand it to him.
By the way, speaking of spectacular, you are bringing the big words tonight.
Oh, sorry, too many.
Big time words.
Okay, all right.
Hey, no, I'm not upset by it. This isn't like, the paper where you got to write at a fourth grade level. We can get weird.
I'm married to a lawyer, so I'm always trying to impress her just in case she listens. She doesn't. She doesn't listen.
Oh my gosh. Women's basketball. A new assistant coach announced. I believe this was announced last week, but wait, yeah, did we? We didn't miss a week. I keep thinking we missed a week because we're recording
We didn't.
late.
Yeah.
Tredasia Smith is following Coach Rebecca Tillett from Longwood to St. Louis University.
She is, and she's going right to the assistant coach role. So she'll be presumably the youngest, the third assistant, the lowest level assistant on the staff. Because last year she wasn't an assistant coach; she was a point guard for Coach Tillett at Longwood. She played 5 seasons in college, with the COVID bonus year, 2 seasons in JUCO, and then 3 at Longwood. And she was a point guard there, starting point guard, and so she'll work with the guards. She put up good numbers as a point guard, and just finished at Longwood with her MBA. So she's certainly talented and smart and hardworking and all of those things. It's pretty interesting to go right from playing immediately to an assistant coaching gig and not director of basketball operations or player personnel or any of those other sort of roles. And I know, not all women's programs have unlimited staff positions to give out and everything like that. But it seems like a pretty big vote of confidence from Coach Tillett to bring somebody who just played for you and immediately have her as one of her 3 assistants.
She's not the only one following Coach Tillett to St. Louis University from Longwood. Talk to Billiken fans about Kennedy Calhoun.
So she was a freshman point guard, and she backed up the now assistant coach Smith. She averaged 6.7 points per game, 3.6 rebounds per game, 2.2 assists per game. So when you see a transfer from Longwood with those numbers, you might not think like, oh, this is a program change or anything like that. But
we do have a point guard,
right? And presumably she was next up, right? I mean, she was backing up somebody this season who was a solid player, and so I think the thought was she was next up, coach. And again, a big vote of confidence from Coach Tillett. But Zach, we are really seeing a theme to everybody she's bringing over, be it players or coaches.
Yeah. How do we feel?
It seems like how we feel is ambivalent.
I just don't get it.
Well,
explain anything to me. Explain something, anything. I don't see how it all transfers up.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be in position to win the Big South. We know that much. But what's the ceiling on what this does, right? I mean, like Coach Tillett and Chris May have talked a lot about culture. Culture is everything. Culture is important to them. I do wonder, like, how much of that can you transfer? She's brought over now 2 coaches, 2 players, because including her daughter who walked on at Longwood, I believe. Do I have that right?
Yes.
So she's brought over a lot of people already from one program. But yeah, does it translate to the A10? Because that is a big jump up, I mean, look,
I know we do sound kind of pretentious a little bit, but it's a real thing.
It is. I mean, she did a great job there. She turned a program that was nothing, that was brand new in D1, was horrible, and made them a conference champ and first NCAA tournament, got a win in the first 4, and really did well there. Still, like we talked about, like their net ranking was not high. I mean, they didn't play a super strong schedule, like this is a significant increase in strength. And so it's going to be interesting to see if she can combine, I guess, what she considers the strongest pieces of that Longwood program, along with the culture and the other, her own system and her own beliefs and approach to coaching, to the whatever returning core there is at SLU, and whatever culture and atmosphere and all of that there is at SLU. It's going to be interesting to see if it translates. But yeah, she's got a lot of confidence in what she had at the Longwood program. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I really am anxious to see her bring in somebody that's not long. Like I think I'm more or less like, I don't know if it's impatience or it's like I want to see what she can do to prove. I want to see her start to like to. There's not results to be had right now on the scoreboard, right? But I'd like to see, and of course she did get this job in the like. Anytime you hire somebody in the off season, they're already behind the curve for recruiting, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's clearly not bringing everybody from Longwood, because if she was, those recruits would just follow her, right? So she clearly understands that there is a jump to be had as far as the talent level. Yes, we have players in place. Maybe she thinks she can get more out of those players than Coach Stone did, and again, that's what this hiring kind of signaled in a way from Chris May, is that there's more that can be gotten from this program at the same level of commitment.
Yeah, and it is worth reminding people that she has retained 3 of the 4 incoming players that Stone had signed for the 2022 class. So that incoming class, those 3 players.
So now there's 4 players. Now we're back to 4 players in that class. Never mind. I'm sorry. Never mind. That's
because in terms of incoming freshmen. Yeah, but we know she does have at least 1 more commitment, because I know they've teased out at least 2, and we found 1 that is going to be the transfer from Longwood. We don't know who the other is yet, whether that's a transfer or an incoming freshman. We know we have room for at least 2 more incoming players. So. Wait. Sorry,
MST
I think we have 3.
MST was out training with the team.
Oh, she was?
Is she I don't know.
She said she was gone.
Yeah. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, more to come on this. I mean,
stay tuned.
She's got more hires. She's got at least 1 more assistant. She's got other staff positions to fill, and we've got at least 3 scholarships to give, but I want to say it's more like 4 or 5. So yes.
The bottom line is our show is important, and you must listen to get this information.
It's going to be a trickle. We don't give it all at once. We got to keep them coming back every week.
Let's slide. You like that? Slide baseball. Slide. Over
that was a home run.
Oh my God. Oh jeez. We're on fire tonight, really. Billiken's got a 13-8 win on Tuesday against Rockhurst, Pete.
I looked at this one early, I was scrolling through Twitter and saw that they were up 5-0 after the first inning, and I was like, oh, of course, it's a D2 school.
They're not up 5-0. In the midweek, buddy.
This is going to be a bloodbath. And then Rockhurst doesn't quit. They get a few back, with a homer in the 4th, bases loaded single in the 5th, and then they get 4 more in the 7th. And all of a sudden, this is like a game. It's like a high-scoring, tight game. But SLU did seal it with 4 runs in the 8th. Grant Fremion gets the win. SLU used 6 different pitchers, and Rockhurst used 5. So 13-8 is the final, and it was kind of a wild one.
Speaking of wild one, this weekend for baseball in general was a wild one. 2 postponements, twice postponed. It really felt like a flashback to like 2020, 2021 basketball season.
It did.
Are we getting games in this weekend? Like, what's going on here? 6th and 7th games were postponed, and they were essentially pushed to Sunday, Pete.
So basically one of them was postponed and one of them was canceled because we were supposed to play Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Instead, we get 2 on Sunday. So SLU and St. Joe's have now played 1 fewer game than most of the teams in conference. and I haven't seen anything about a makeup, so I think they're just going to leave it at that.
By the way, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, if you notice in the notes, it kept giving me fractions instead of 5.6, 5.7, and 5.8.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I know. Yeah, those gotta
I
love
just
those
don't know how to
dates.
fix that. But yeah,
Yeah,
talk about that doubleheader on Sunday.
it's one of those classic 9 a.m. noon double headers
Yeah,
on a Sunday morning.
Everyone can relate to that.
Yeah, no, you got to get up for that 9 a.m. Sunday baseball. But hey, when you've already got flights home purchased, I mean, this is the way it's got to be. Um, so SLU wins the morning game 12-10. I'm guessing that the noon game probably did not start on time.
It did not.
Yeah,
and none of them were streamed, which was a pain in my ass.
Yeah. So the morning game was great. So SLU pulls it out 12-10 because of a huge comeback. St. Joe's scored 6 in the first and got another in the second. So SLU's in a 7-0 hole, and gets one back in the fourth, and then ties it with 6 in the top of the sixth. A lot of small ball, and then cap it off with the Cody Jansen home run. And then they get 3 more. St. Joe's gets 3 more in the bottom of the inning to go back up. And then SLU scores 2 to get within 1 in the top of the 8th, and then scores 3 more in the 9th. So they came back a couple times really in this one. It was a tough start for Scott Youngbrandt.
I want to say that's his second tough start
in a row.
Yeah.
And then Grant Fremian comes in again, and he pitched 4 2/3, gave up 4 to eat up most of the innings. And then Logan Schmidt and Cameron Farrer come in and shut it down. They wind up with the win and the save. So just a really impressive, gutty, gritty win up in Philly.
Yeah, I think I tweeted out. I said I pulled up Twitter, and the Billikens were down 7-0 in the second inning, and I just had to remind myself, get to the bullpen.
Yeah.
Anything. Look, guys, if you have not watched this base, by the way, this team, they're not spectacular, right? They're not. But I'm actually having a lot of fun following, covering Hendrickson and his team here. I have no idea why. But I find myself, every game I watch, I learn another player. And every time it's like collecting almost. You learn, the more you learn about these guys that are on the team, the more invested you get. I implore you guys, if you are on, basketball withdrawal, Billiken, check out baseball, check out soccer in the fall, check out softball for crying out loud. It really is fun to follow once you kind of get down to it. Don't worry about the weekday games. Just focus on the weekends, and you'll enjoy yourself.
Yeah. And a lot of these are on ESPN Plus. These weren't, but typically they are.
Right. And shout out Colin Surrey for his great work, and Bobby Sutherland, who, by the way, we will have on the pod sooner rather than later.
Yeah, for sure.
It's interesting. You mentioned the flights, though. Talking with, I don't remember who I was talking with, but they were concerned about Sunday's game against Davidson. There was a hard out for when that game had to end. So that's something that, I don't know if people realize about college baseball, is they have these flights booked. It's not like, Major League Baseball, where they probably fly charter or.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they definitely fly charter in majors, but
it's even not like basketball,
right.
Basketball, it's not often that you get a game that goes so long that interferes with a flight home. And typically we're chartering anyway, but it's not like a one overtime is going to ruin your flight schedule or anything like that.
Yeah, no, So, I mean, it is interesting. Coming up for the Billikens, they head to Kingston, Rhode Island for a 3-game series with the Rams, May 13th, 2 p.m., May 14th, 12 p.m., and then May 15th at 11 a.m. No midweek game for the Bills this week.
Yeah, and that's another big series against Rhode Island, because they're a half game behind SLU in the standings. One thing we should say, SLU also won that noon game at St. Joe's 4-1, and that 2-game sweep up at St. Joe's is huge because SLU's now third in the A10 at 11-6. St. Joe's slides down to fifth at 9-8. So Rhodey's right in between them, and all of these games have big implications for the conference tournament coming up.
Yeah, again, I'm so excited. I don't even like baseball, and I loved baseball growing up playing it. The Cardinals. I enjoy going to games. I enjoy following Billiken baseball now way more than I thought I could. And I enjoy sitting on the couch and flipping on these games on ESPN Plus. I seriously crack a beer, I don't know, grab some popcorn. I don't know, just sit down and watch these games this weekend. I promise you, you'll enjoy it. Let's slide over again. Let's dive headfirst into softball. They played George Mason this weekend. They got swept, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, because again, these games were huge for, and we'll get to this, but the seeding for the conference tournament. Doubleheader on the 7th, and these were all close games. SLU lost the first one 6-5, and the second one 3-2. Just really unfortunate losses here. It was 1-1 going into the 5th of the first game. Mason winds up getting 3 in the top of the inning, SLU 2 in the bottom. And then, after Mason got 2 more, SLU could only get 2 back in the bottom of the 7th. Chloe Wendling, complete game, gets the loss. All of the offense came from Kowalik and Konecki, who combined for all 5 of SLU's RBIs. And then in the second leg of the doubleheader, SLU had a 2-0 lead and winds up losing the game 3-2. They gave up 3 in the top of the 7th. They loaded the bases. A sac fly brought the first one home, and then a single the next 2. So, Hockman had a gem going until then. She still ended up with 10 strikeouts. It was just that last inning that she couldn't get through. So really unfortunate. And then why don't you take us through Sunday's game?
3-0 loss Sunday, 5-8. GMU got the sweep. Wendling gets the loss. Callie Sutcliffe pitched the last inning in 2/3. SLU could only muster 4 hits on the day. Sadie Wise with 2 of them. The sweep puts SLU solidly back to 4th place in the A10 with a record of 13-10. Mason landed a couple places but behind SLU at 12-12. So again, also a little bit demoralizing in that a team behind you came in and swept you.
Right.
At
home.
Yes. The A10 Championship is set May 11th through the 14th in Fairfax, Virginia. The 4-seed Billikens, they'll have to beat Dayton in the first round for a chance to face the number 1 seed George Washington, who has been an absolute juggernaut in conference. They had a chance at as high as the 2 seed with a sweep of George Mason. Unfortunately, it went the opposite way, and they landed as the 4 seed. They've lost 6 of the last 7. Not great entering postseason. Pete?
No, bats got quiet. The bats have gotten quiet at the wrong time of the year. They didn't have to sweep that series to get on the other side of the bracket from George Washington either. Everybody else in conference is beatable. But unfortunately now they've got to beat a 5 seed before getting to the 1 seed. And, I don't know if they're going to get past. I just don't see them doing that. Being on the other side of the bracket, maybe you wind up with GW in the final and anything can happen. So just a really unfortunately timed sweep.
Go ahead and run us down women's tennis real quick, and then I'll jump on the men's tennis.
Yeah, so they entered the A10 tournament as the 6th seed. They beat 11 seed George Mason 4-1 in the first round, taking 5 of 6 singles matches and 2 of 3 in doubles. And then in the quarterfinals, they lost to 3 seed Fordham 4-2. Perez and Hesham won in the singles, but they couldn't get anything else going. And then 1 seed VCU won the conference tournament, lost to Tennessee in the first round of the NCAA tournament.
On the men's side, the season ended in the A10 tournament with a 4-0 loss to Dayton. SLU was the 6 seed. Dayton was the 3. Men's bracket is smaller, so both avoided the first round. 1 seed VCU won it. Obviously, they took both men's and women's. They beat Penn in the first round of the NCAA tournament before falling to Virginia in the second round. SLU finished the season with an 8-13 record. I think VCU definitely has a geographic advantage when it comes to tennis. Anytime you're in a warmer climate, it's probably easier. And also being in the Virginia area, I think tennis is a big scene down there. Run us through the track side, and then I'll take over the A10 Championships.
Yeah, so they did. We didn't cover this last week, but they as we talked about in the interview, they had the Drake relays in Des Moines, set a school record in the men's sprint medley relay. Miles Gascon, Danny Hopkins, Malik Stewart, Jackson Higley. They ran 3:29:59. They sent a few runners over to Kip Janvrin Open in Indianola, Iowa, and then Miles Gascon broke his own school record in the 100 meters, 10:58. Remember that record because it's not the last time you'll hear it. At the Sycamore Open at Indiana State, the men finished 7th, the women 4th. I think that was kind of, the ones who couldn't go up to Iowa got to run there. And then they had 7 other personal records set that weekend that were not already mentioned. Aiden Martin in the 400 meters, Diego Collado in the hammer throw, Teresa Lampe in the 100-meter hurdles, Abby Kiefer in the 400, Sophia Thibault in the 5K, Abby Jabolka in the javelin, and then Sasha Marks in the pole vault. All had personal records that weekend. So pretty nice weekend heading into the A10 Championships.
Yes, and the A10 Championships were held this weekend in Richmond. Obviously, you heard us chat with both Toby Gillen and Emily Nichols about that and the season in general. SLU finished 8th on the men's side, 11th on the women's. Toby Gillen won the 10K with a time of 30:54, which is very fast. He finished 3rd in the 5K and was named A10 Rookie of the Year, as we mentioned earlier. Miles Gascon, 2 new school records with 21:75 in the 200 meter and 10:54 in the 100. Abby Chabolka, personal best in the heptathlon, along with a personal best in the high jump. Emily Nichols, 24:48 in the 200 meters for a new school record. Jayla Robinson also set a PB in the 200 and 100. James Baker, PB in the 400-meter high hurdles. I didn't know there was the levels of hurdles, but apparently there is. Evan Brinderman, should have asked the kids. PR in the long jump. Teresa Lampe, PR in the 100-meter high hurdles. Rhode Island won the men's championship by a lot. 4th straight title, and UMass edged out Dayton for the women's title. NCAA West preliminary round start May 25th in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Beautiful, beautiful facility there. And I do not believe we have any qualifiers. I believe the only one that would have probably qualified was Toby Gillen, and I think he would have mentioned it.
Yeah, I think so, but we'll see him there next year.
You love talking chess, Pete.
I love to give the people what they want.
Should we live stream like me and you playing chess? Like, I mean, I wonder if me and you could both beat one chess. Like, given like that we get like 10 minutes per turn.
Well, if anyone watched it who knows anything about chess, they would probably just be screaming because like I haven't played chess in years. I don't and like
I just
haven't
know the
played
horse
like
goes.
Yeah, people play online now. There's a lot of there's kind of a chess, certainly in St. Louis. There's a big chess community. There's a little bit of a chess boom after the Queen's Gambit. Making chess sexy again. But no, SLU dedicated the Sinkfield Chess Commons on May 3rd. Rex and his wife were there for the dedication. It's located in Morrissey Hall, which is just across from the business school on SLU's campus. It's a good spot. And the
old
law school.
Yeah.
The chess team plays there, and its trophies are displayed there. And now the trophy case has that national championship trophy after just 6 years into the program's history. And then the chess commons, so kind of the front of Morrissey Hall, it looks like there's a big king piece statue,
didn't see
and
that.
kind of like an outdoor chess like tile board, on the front terrace there. So it looks like a nice place. I mean, the national champions have a nice home that's maybe a little flashy now too.
By the way, if somebody can link us up with a chess program just to talk, I mean, like, I would love to go in there and do some content, whatever I don't know, be fun.
Yeah,
By the way, chess and sexy, it's apparently Midtown Madness after dark.
that's right.
Yeah. Anyway, that wraps up the week that was in Billiken Athletics with a few left turns here and there. Follow us on Twitter at Midtown Mad Pod, at Peter is a tweeter, at Zach Miller MMP. And if you want to learn more about Billiken's cross country track and field, at Billiken's XCTF. I feel bad we forgot to let them plug their socials. That was a big swing and a miss on our part. To be fair, we did schedule this about a half hour before we started recording. So, but thanks again to Emily Nichols and Toby Gillen for joining the show this week. Don't forget, you can also find us on Instagram at Midtown Mad Pod. That's new. We also appreciate any and all suggestions you might have for the show. Again, like I said, if you have any connections to anybody who you think we should talk to, put us in touch. We are wide open to ideas. Seriously. Please go subscribe to the show on all platforms. If you haven't left a review, that would be awesome too. If you dropped us 5 stars. As always, Pete, go Bills.
Go Bills.